Hi, this is Dan Wilkham, and this presentation is the first in a series, and it's really intended to be sort of a primer on the goal and the value of user experience. The whole series is going to be geared towards software, but many of the principles we'll talk about have broader applications as well. So first off, what do we mean when we talk about user experience? Well, simply put, a user experience is any part of a system that a human interacts with directly. Now, how broadly that applies to us depends on how broadly we define our system. Are we thinking of our system as an individual software feature? Or more likely, are we thinking of it as an entire piece of software or an entire service offering? Now, what if a piece of software is part of a suite? Does our concept of the system extend to include the whole suite? What about the support services that surround it, the help system, the documentation, the user support desk? User experience is all about making human interactions with our system as understandable, as successful, efficient, and fulfilling as possible. And it's limited only by how broadly we define the boundaries of our system. Now, to bring this back down to reality, here's an example of a real-life user experience. This is just like the home theater that I have in my basement, except that my screen isn't nearly that big, and my basement looks nothing like that. And my basement has Fisher-Price toys all over the place. So really my basement is nothing like this one. But anyway, this system has a user experience. And when I use this system, I have a goal in mind. Since this is a system I use frequently, the ability of that user experience to successfully get me to my goal in the most efficient, understandable, and fulfilling way is very important to me. Now, I happen to know that there's a Star Wars marathon running tonight, so my goal is to watch TV. Here's what the user experience for watching TV is. Step 1, find my remote, TV remote. Step 2, turn my TV on. Step 3, find my satellite remote. Step 4, turn my satellite box on. Step 5, find my sound system remote. Step 6, turn my sound system on. Step 7, switch back to my TV remote. Step 8, change my TV input. Step 9, switch back to my sound system remote. Step 10, change my sound system input. Step 11, switch back to my satellite remote again. And step 12, finally, watch TV. But then step 13, call support when everything invariably goes awry. Now, let's evaluate that user experience against the criteria I mentioned before. Is it successful at getting me to my goal? Well, I wired the system together, so my success rate is going to be high. But my wife, my kids, let's say anyone who visits my house who didn't wire it together is going to have a success rate of about 5%. So no, for most users, it's not a successful experience. Is it efficient? I'm pretty confident that we could improve on a 12-step process to watch TV, so no, it's not efficient. Is it understandable? Not if you don't have a detailed knowledge of all of the components and how they're connected together. Is it fulfilling? Well, at this point, my kids are spilling popcorn all over the place and whining in my ear that they're missing the best part of The Empire Strikes Back. So no, it's not at all fulfilling. Now, the user experience for this system exists, but it wasn't designed on purpose. It just came together out of the necessity of each of these components having some sort of interface. As a result, the interface for this system is self-absorbed, meaning that my success in dealing with it is entirely dependent on me understanding in detail the complexities of how it all works and how it's all strung together. Now, the way I like to put that is that the wires are showing, meaning the complexity of the system is coming through in the user experience, and my goal as a user is totally ignored. Now, a little Canadian company called Intrigue Technologies saw this problem and did one simple thing. They changed the user experience. They didn't build a better TV, they didn't redesign the satellite box, they just changed how I as a user interact with those things. They didn't change anything about the system itself. It still has a lot of complexity. It still does all of the things it used to do. But the experience is exponentially better than it used to be by all of those criteria. Why? Well, first of all, because it was designed on purpose. The user experience wasn't left to chance. But moreover, it was designed to make sense to the everyday user, not to the product manager at Panasonic or the engineer at Marantz or the person, me in this case, who wired all the components together. In this case, improving the user experience improved the user's life. It turned a complex, intimidating task that we do all the time and made it into a simple, approachable experience. And it did it so well that Logitech bought the company for $29 million, which leads me to my next point. User experience makes money. Now, in this case, user experience was the product, so it made money directly by selling that experience to the consumer, and it made money by attracting the attention of a large manufacturer. But let's linger here for a moment, because user experience makes money in other ways as well. Starting with reducing development costs. 63% of software projects exceed their estimates, and the top 4 reasons are all related to product usability. The UI for software is responsible for 80% of the unforeseen fixes required during the development cycle. The other 20% are legitimate bugs. Now, user experience methods are designed to circumvent these problems earlier in the process, reducing or eliminating the need for rework later in the game. Now, on the next part, I have to say, I started my career as a technical writer, writing software manuals, developing contextual help systems, and running training programs. I started to realize that a feature that took 30 steps and 5 pages of a manual to explain and that left trainees scratching their heads could probably be improved. Experiences that are easier to understand inherently require far less documentation and training and a lot less money that goes along with that. Now, in the home theater system, the one with the 5% success rate, when someone visiting my house can't complete the task, there's no money lost. I leave the barbecue for a few minutes to turn on the game, and maybe I overcook a couple of burgers. But when our customers can't use our system, now we've got incoming support calls. We've got time from professional services dealing with a frustrated customer. We've got retraining costs. We've got DBA requests to roll back undesired changes in the database. Those are real dollars. Then we start thinking about customer rollouts, upgrades, workflow setup. When the experience is streamlined, there's less complexity to manage. Clearer connections and relationships are established between configuration options, and there's less testing required. Now, that's on the expense reduction side. How does user experience help us bring in money that wasn't there before? How does it actually generate income? Well, the first way is through lead generation. I will tell you that good user interfaces stand out at trade shows and in marketing materials. When someone walks by a booth or flips through a brochure, product sequences that are clean, that are compelling, and that expose functionality in an obvious way grab far more attention than complex screens accompanied by lengthy textual explanations. The old saying goes that a picture says 1,000 words, so are those impressions helping us? Are they getting prospects interested enough to talk to us? Or does seeing a screenshot of our product make them move on and talk to our competitors? The second income contributor is through sales. I'll say from experience that features driven by user experience tend to become the cornerstone of sales demos. The reason is that the feature explains itself. The sales engineer walks through a sequence and all you see at the table are nodding heads. The sales team can focus on relating it to the client's needs rather than explaining the mechanics. The team can connect better with the prospect. The product resonates better with the decision makers. They can see it in action and more clearly understand what it means and what it's offering them. Now, all of this comes down to a simple number, and that's a fairly typical return on an investment in user experience. So that's a pretty bold statement, but what the heck is user experience? Well, simply put, user experience is an evil plot to take over the world. I say that jokingly, but the reason I say it is people tend to jump immediately to the pretty screens and the glossy buttons and think that those things are what user experience is all about. But those things don't make any substantive improvements on their own. Glossy buttons don't make our products more successful at meeting users' goals. Rounded corners and snappy colors don't improve efficiency. Now, good design practices do tend to create visually appealing interfaces, but user experience is much more fundamental than that. It's really a change in how we think. It's something that's not constrained to just the software. It's an ingrained habit of thinking beyond an individual project, business unit, or job function, and viewing things first and foremost from the perspective of our users, the people who are on the receiving end of everything that we as a company do. That's important because no amount of rounded corners, glossy buttons, hot new designs, or great new features are going to make that kind of a difference to our customers without a change in how we think about what we're delivering. Now, that may sound great as a mission statement, and it's tempting to slap it on a mug, feel good about how awesome we are, and call it a day. But what do we do to make it real in practice? And how do we design a better user experience for our customers? Well, that's where the user experience process comes in.